Alright, so Ariel Helwani dropped his top 5 winners of 2024 this past week, and I gotta say that his list is pretty atrocious, and I find myself disagreeing with basically all of his picks. And some of you guys might be saying that this isn't specifically Ariel's list, but instead it's a list made by him and his team at Uncrowned, which is his new media company, but I don't know, man. I feel like when you actually look at the list itself, you can literally smell the pretentiousness from the choices that can only be traced back to Ariel himself. Coming in at number 5 is Alex Pereira. Okay, bro, come on, what? Number 5? For many fans, including myself, Alex is literally the fighter of the year, and Ariel is clocking him in at number 5. I mean, I guess he's at least featured on the list, but placing him at the bottom spot is straight up laughable. In 2024, Alex literally saved UFC 300 by knocking out Jamal Hill, then he knocked out Yuri Prohaska twice in one fight at UFC 303. And then he had one of the best title fights of the year against Khalil Roundtree, where he finished him in the 4th round after going Ultra Instinct on him. 3 title defenses, 3 knockout wins. Not only that, and most importantly here, he shattered the record for shortest time for 3 consecutive title defenses in UFC history at 175 days, which, to be honest, is a record that I don't think is going to be broken for quite a while based on how inactive UFC champions have become. Like, I genuinely can't even wrap my head around the level of delusion and pretentiousness that comes with Ariel putting Alex at number 5 here, because for someone whose fingers are so close on the pulse of the sport, there's really no reasoning that can be provided that can justify having Pereira at the bottom of these rankings. Like, in my opinion, the only fighter from 2024 that I would accept being above Alex on a list such as this would be Ilia Topuria, and guess fucking what? Ilia's not even on Ariel's top 5. Ilia Topuria, the guy that knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in devastating fashion and then followed that up by knocking out Max Holloway for the very first time in Max's career, is not on Ariel's top 5 list. But just put a pin in that for now because we're going to move on through the remaining entries. At number 4, Ariel has Dakota Dacheva, which, to be fair, she did have a great year in the PFL, and she probably had the best year out of all other fighters in that promotion. But in spite of those consolations, I definitely wouldn't have put her on my list of biggest achievers from last year. Like, yes, she did have a very impressive strength of schedule by winning 4 fights in basically 8 months, and yes, it's a huge feather in her cap that she finished all 4 of her opponents in devastating fashion, with only one of those fights making it out of the first round. But my biggest critique to her current win streak as a whole is who has she actually fought? And although I definitely mean this in a general overall sense of her entire MMA career, I'll keep this focused on her 2024 run. Her first opponent of last year, Lisa Malden, doesn't have a Wikipedia page. Her second opponent, Chelsea Hackett, has a record of 4-3. Her third opponent, Jenna Bishop, who she fought in the semifinals of the PFL tournament, also doesn't have a Wikipedia page, and then she TKO'd Tyla Santos in the second round of the tournament finals. And of course, Tyla is a legitimate opponent, and the fact that Dakota beat her absolutely does speak to her skills as a fighter, but are we really supposed to be mind-blown that Dakota ran through 3 unknown PFL cans to the point where she deserves to be above Ilia Topuria or even Diego Lopez on a list of top performers of 2024? Look, Dakota had a good year, good with a lowercase g and with a period at the end of the sentence. But there's no way in hell that I would even consider her as a top 5 fighter from this past year given the quality of competition that she faced. This is a classic DEI pick from Ariel here, and even though on paper it looks like Dakota had an S-tier year, when you put her resume under even the lowest power microscope, it really does not hold up. Honestly, I'm not even sure if I would put Dakota in the top 10 of my 2024 list, so for Ariel to have her at number 4 is pretty weird to me. Okay, at number 3, Ariel has none other than Jon Jones, and yeah, nah. I mean, did Jon have a good year? I mean, he had a good fight, singular. Look, a lot of you guys already know my thoughts on Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic and how his win in that fight doesn't really do all that much for his legacy when you consider how piss poor Stipe looked in the ring that night. And hey, if this fight took place in 2020 like it fucking should have, then I would definitely hold it up in much higher regard. But it's just hard for me to give Jon glowing praise for beating the best heavyweight in UFC history when the best heavyweight in UFC history was several years over the hill when he beat him. And even though Stipe was obviously not going to be the same fighter that he was during his heyday, and even though Stipe was coming off of a brutal knockout loss in his previous fight, it is a win that would look great on paper, and Jon sure as shit knew that as he lobbied for this fight to be made. And you know what? I'm just gonna say it. I don't agree with putting Jon on a list of top winners of the year when he outright avoided fighting the interim champion of his division in Tom Aspinall. And mind you, this has nothing to do with Jon or Tom specifically. If any champ refused to unify their title and instead chose to fight the number number 8 ranked guy in their division, I would be saying the same exact thing about them. It's a matter of simple principle. If you're the champ and there's an interim champ in your division, then you fight the interim champ. It's not a hard concept to understand. Oh, but they both wanted to fight each other. Yeah, I'm sure that John did want to get an easy title defense against a guy that's years out of his prime, and I'm sure that Stipe wanted a chance to ride off into the sunset by getting a win over John Jones in his last fight. Just because two fighters want to fight each other doesn't make it a good enough reason to have them fight for a title, especially when there's already an interim champion waiting in the wings. Anyways, one win in 2024 over the ghost of Stipe Miocic absolutely does not justify John Jones being at the number 3 spot. If he beat Tom Aspinall on the other hand, then we can definitely start to have that conversation, so let's just keep our fingers crossed that Dana can actually make this fight happen sometime this year. Alright, so at number 2, Ariel has the Fighting Nerds Gym. And hey, credit where credit is due, I like this pick. Given, I probably wouldn't have put them at number 2 on my list of top winners of 2024, but I definitely respect that they're included on his list. I mean, let's be real here, it's kinda unfair to rank an entire team success against individual fighters, thus I feel like 2 is a little bit too high, but these guys definitely deserve the recognition for breaking out this year and becoming a major gym in the sport. On my list, I'd probably put them as number 5, but good for Ariel for actually including them. And with all that out of the way, we have reached Ariel's top pick for winner of 2024, and of course, in true Ariel fashion, he's given his number 1 spot to someone completely undeserving of even being in the top 10, let alone the top spot. Because for number 1, Ariel has Sharapudin Magomedov. What the fuck? This is such a ridiculous and inexplicably dumb choice that I'm sure both hardcore and casual fans can agree doesn't make a lick of sense. First and foremost, compared to UFC caliber competition, I don't think Shara is even all that good. Like, just based on the eye test alone, I feel like Shara doesn't even stand out all that much, and he kinda looks mediocre at best. And my god, let's just take a look at his 3 opponents from 2024, and the story of how this guy is such an overrated hype job will really start to take form. He started off his 2024 run by scoring a 3rd round TKO over Antonio Trocoli, who sucks. Trocoli went 0-2 in 2024 and is probably on the verge of being cut from the UFC for a 2nd time, assuming he loses his next fight, which seems very likely. Shara then followed this up with a decision win over journeyman Mikhail Oleksiejczuk, and mind you, Mikhail also went winless in 2024 with a record of 0-3 throughout the year. And then Shara's 3rd and final win from last year was over Armen Petrosyan, who went 0-2 throughout 2024. Now, for those of you guys who aren't the best at math, let me do some addition for you. Shara's 3 opponents literally went 0-7 in 2024, yet Ariel has him at the number 1 spot for top performers of the year. Shara is a can crusher of the highest order, even more so than early UFC Sean O'Malley. And yeah, he did get a pretty sweet knockout against Petrosyan, but does that really earn him a number 1 spot on any self-respecting MMA fans' top fighters of 2024 list when you consider that all 3 of his opponents couldn't get a single win in 7 UFC outings? I don't know, man. I feel like Ariel is a damn fool for posting this list online, and much like a lot of the things that Ariel does, it just reeks of pretentiousness. I really get the feeling that Ariel made this list hoping that we'd be impressed at how against the grain he thinks compared to us plebs, but the ironic thing is, in spite of Ariel's higher level of thought, he ended up just making himself look like a fool who doesn't know anything about the sport by excluding fighters like Ilia Topuria and Diego Lopez, even though they've done much more impressive things last year than Shara Bullet and Dakota Decheva. Anyways, that's the video for today. Definitely let me know what you think about Ariel's top 5 winners of 2024 list. Do you agree with the rankings, or do you think that he failed to recognize much more deserving fighters? Also, now that I'm back from my holiday travels, I'm going to start posting much more frequently again, so thank you for your patience the last few weeks. As always, if you like the video, then like the video, and if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so. I appreciate you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.